Hey, what's going on, guys? In the lead up to UFC 297, Dricus Du Plessis has exposed Sean Strickland as a massive hypocrite. And some clips have come out from Theo Von's podcast where Sean Strickland was a guest. And I could not believe some of the stuff that he said. And on top of that, he had a mental breakdown that honestly made me feel bad for him. But then we're going to take a look at some of the things that he said in the past, where now he's taken the moral high ground and drawing a certain line, and you have the Sean Strickland incel fan base kind of defending him with certain logic, jumping through hoops. And I want to break it all down in this video. And also, since these clips emerged, you have Machado Garys absolutely burying Sean Strickland online. We're going to take a look at Machado Garys' comments as well. But I want to start right away with kind of where this beef emerged. And where it all emerged was the UFC seasonal press conference. And this is where Dricus really got under the skin of Sean Strickland. And keep in mind, previous to this, the clip I'm about to show you, Strickland was throwing jabs at Dricus all night, calling him homophobic slurs, talking about his coach. And this was when Dricus finally decided to fire back. Let's take a listen.
You know, he said he's going to walk through me, and I'm glad that you know you won't finish me. You won't even get close. But don't worry. There won't be enough.
I don't gotta
time
worry
for you
about
to think
finishing.
about
Your
it.
coach will finish you in the back like you're fucking used to. Don't worry about that. You're gonna get fucking finished that night. Your coach got you.
So there you go. And now Dricus finally decides to fire back. And this, I mean, with basically 2 lines from Dricus Du Plessis, he mentally broke Strickland completely for this fight.
Why are you so angry? Bro, you think your dad beat the shit out of you? Your dad doesn't have shit on me. I'm going to show you what it's like to beat you.
You can see Sean Strickland's demeanor change immediately. He's pissed. And he's still pissed about this. And we're going to look at the Theo Von podcast in a minute where he's deeply emotionally affected by these comments.
I mean, every childhood memory you have is going to come back when I'm in there with you. Every single one. The one where you lie in bed at night where your dad comes in and he beats the shit out of you.
I will take your fucking soul. You understand, you fucking pussy?
That will be an MMA meme forever. That Dricus laugh there. That's crazy.
Yeah, you fucking laugh, you fucking faggot.
Yeah, I got a nerve. I see I hit a nerve there.
Yeah, you fucking did hit a nerve, you fucking...
So basically, that is the start of the Strickland and Du Plessis beef. Now, I want to take a look at 2 more things before we look at the Theo Von podcast. Since then, and I made another video about Sean Strickland being a hypocrite right after this press conference, but this is Strickland tweeting out, basically playing the victim and saying, how could Dricus do this? How could O'Malley do this? And basically playing the victim and playing, I want the moral high ground here. You don't cross that line. And then Dricus responded and basically said, I'm going to make you a real victim on January 20th, okay? So there's kind of some back and forth that was online. I talked about that recently in another video. But then you have Strickland going on Theo Von's podcast. And this first clip actually literally blew my mind.
There's some things that were off limits.
There's some things that are off limits. What could he possibly say that are off limits? There's no way he's going to be a massive hypocrite here, right? There's no way.
You don't really talk about a man's wife.
Yeah.
You don't talk about a man's wife. This man spent a full month on social media slandering Machado Garys' wife for no reason. For literally no reason. Just because it was generating interest at the time. Because Sean Strickland really enjoys the attention that he gets. And we're going to talk, when we look at Sean Strickland's emotional breakdown on this podcast in a minute, we're also going to discuss a layer to Sean Strickland that I feel like everyone dances around and they're scared to mention, but I will not be afraid to mention it in this video. But let's listen to the rest of this real quick.
You don't really, you don't talk about a man's wife. You don't talk about a man's kids. And you don't talk about like fucking a kid being abused. These things were all off limits.
So now we have a rule book. Sean Strickland wants to police speech during trash talk, during press conferences. That's what Sean Strickland's saying here. One person stood up to the bully, and now all of a sudden we got a handbook on trash talk. That's what Strickland is saying here. And I want to be very clear. I don't think we should be joking about child abuse. I don't think that the trash talk should be going that far just to sell a pay-per-view. But at some point when you go around like Sean Strickland does, and you lobby out these insults, and you talk about people's wives and their families, and you go through all these different things and say all these different disgusting things in just terms of generating interest and trash talking other fighters, eventually you're going to find someone who matches that energy. And Dricus Du Plessis matched that energy. And that's exactly what happened here. But Strickland just, he wants to play the victim. He can't seem to take it. Now let's take a look at where he had an emotional breakdown. This is a different clip from the podcast where he has an emotional breakdown. And I actually feel bad for Strickland here, to be quite honest. But let's listen.
Dude, I remember like laying in bed. Like I remember I stopped believing in God, man. Like fucking, like I had fucking, yeah, it's crazy shit, dude.
You can see he starts to think about it. And again, this just goes to show that Strickland is mentally broken. I feel bad for him here. I really do. I really do. But this is what he's brought onto himself.
Crazy shit, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, bud.
So, man.
So you can say, it's actually horrible to watch. This is actually horrible. I actually feel horrible for Strickland. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a massive hypocrite that we're going to expose here in a second. But let's continue listening.
Yeah, so like
Any kid.
whenever Dricus goes on there and like he jokes about that shit,
Right.
it's like, dude, you have no idea. Yeah, I mean, and this is like,
So it's not okay for Dricus to joke about this, even though Strickland himself, there's no way there's a clip of Strickland advocating for child abuse, right? Because this is what it comes down to. Strickland's upset that Dricus Du Plessis joked about his childhood trauma. There's no way that Strickland endorses that, right? There definitely isn't a clip of him on the Food Truck Diaries endorsing that, right? No possible way, right? I don't think so. I couldn't imagine that, right? Let's take a listen to this.
Yeah, anyways, back to my rant about Americans. You guys are just soft motherfuckers. You gotta get hit by your family more. We need to bring back alcoholism, maybe some drug abuse. Be good for you guys.
Just toughen them up.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Look at like
You grew up tough.
Yeah,
That's why you have that perspective.
I mean, you fucking dodge a couple beer bottles when you're a fucking kid. You harden up. I'm not saying that the world will be a better place with more of me, but you guys need to get hit by your dads a little bit more.
You guys need to get hit by your dads a little bit more. And I wonder if he clarifies that. Does he mean like a little spanking or does he mean actual child abuse?
Not even hit, not discipline. You guys don't need to be like, I didn't take out the trash.
So not discipline, which still necessarily isn't right. I don't think putting your hands on a young child is right regardless of the situation. But it doesn't mean like a little spanking or anything. Let's see what he actually means. He can't possibly mean a beatdown, could he?
Hit. You guys need to get like an alcoholic rage beating, and then you'll start fucking learning how to have, nuts.
So there you go. There's Strickland advocating for an alcoholic rage beating. And if you jump back to this, mental breakdown that he had here on the Theo Von podcast, which to be quite frank was hard to watch. It was really, truly hard to watch. But you know what I thought? You know what my reaction to this when I initially saw this was? I thought, this is the gayest shit I've ever seen. And I love bi women, so I've seen a lot of gay. Yeah, so you're really special, a special little snowflake. This man is the definition of a PC beta male. You all would hate him. Seriously, being in the same room as him makes me cringe. Oh, wait, never mind. That wasn't my thoughts. I'm sorry. That wasn't my thoughts. That was what Strickland had to say about Khalil Roundtree when Khalil Roundtree cried on camera, talking about his childhood and his thoughts of potentially ending his life. That's what Strickland said. That wasn't my thoughts. Sorry, I mixed that up for a second there. That couldn't possibly be my thoughts because that's Strickland's thoughts about Khalil Roundtree. And if you actually, let's take a look at the Khalil Roundtree clip. We'll take a look at the Khalil Roundtree clip where Khalil Roundtree broke down at a UFC press conference. Let's take a listen to that. By the way, he was asked, if you could talk to your childhood self, what would you say to them?
It might sound a bit cliche or we've heard this before, but like your life matters.
So there you go. You get the point. There's Khalil Roundtree crying, thinking about his childhood. And you saw what Sean Strickland had to say about him. Sean Strickland went on Twitter to bash him and insult him. And that wasn't the only time he did it. He did this multiple times. And it just goes to show what a hypocrite Sean Strickland is. And I've seen multiple people, and we're going to take a look at another clip here in a second. But I've seen multiple people defending Sean Strickland and saying, well, Strickland uses things that people make decisions as adults and, Dricus is using childhood trauma where he didn't choose that, where other people are. I mean, there's people out there, the incel Strickland fan base, jumping through hoops to make all these different lines. You know, they're like, you know that meme of the guy like crazy and he's looking at like a whiteboard with like yarn and thumbtacks all. I mean, that's what these people look like, making excuses for Sean Strickland. At the end of the day, Sean Strickland dishes it out. He crosses the line over and over and over again. And when someone now crosses the line with him, he's like, oh, you know what? This isn't right. This is so bad. How could people even bring this up? This is disgusting. I can't believe this. You know, this is where I draw the line. So when Dricus says some mean words to you, when you've gone out of your way to harass people's wives, talk about people who had trauma in their childhoods, discuss people who have died. We're going to take a look at that clip here in a second. Now all of a sudden it's too far. It's hurt your feelings. So now all of a sudden it's too far. Next thing you know, Sean Strickland's going to be suing Dricus Du Plessis, and maybe the fight's going to be off. Maybe that's the next thing we're going to do. But let's take a look at one last clip that I pulled from Sean Strickland talking about a fighter who died. This is a fighter who did not choose to die. It was an accident. They got hit by a bus. And this is what Sean Strickland had to say about him. And this is after Sean Strickland says, oh, women should be in the kitchen. Women shouldn't be allowed to work or vote. And by the way, Strickland says a lot of things, and he gets away with them by saying, oh, that's just Strickland being Strickland. Strickland's just joking around. He's just kidding around. He crosses the line every single press conference. He talks about Israel Adesanya and saying, making up lies about what Israel Adesanya did with his dog and over-exaggerating what went on there. He goes out of his way to call Dricus homophobic slurs, discuss his coach, and shit-talk his coach. But now the line's too far. It couldn't possibly be when you talk about someone who died where their family is literally mourning them the week of, and you go to a press conference and you talk crap about them. That couldn't possibly happen, right? Let's listen.
Set the stage. A Brazilian fighter got hit by a fucking bus and died. No one gave a fuck about that guy. When I read it, I was like, God damn, dude, if you can't dodge a bus, that's why you're not in the UFC.
If you can't dodge a bus, that's why you're not in the UFC. And he says guy there. I thought it was a woman, but maybe I'm mixing up. Maybe I'm mixing up dead people that Sean Strickland's made fun of. But just listen. I think there's a little bit more here.
That was my first joke when I read that, and I stand by it. It's fucking hilarious. But the only reason why these fucking assholes post, Buckley posts, all these guys post, is because she was a hot, young, white woman with a shitty amateur record.
Got to shit on the dead woman's record. So it was a woman. Got to shit on a dead woman's UFC, or not UFC record, MMA record. And maybe he's calling out these people for being, I guess fake emotional. But at the end of the day, if people want to show their support for someone in a family or a fighter who passed away, even if it's not coming from the most sincere place, you're going to complain about that. You're going to be complaining about people being overly nice. Meanwhile, you're throwing jabs about someone's record who's dead. You're saying, oh, no wonder they weren't in the UFC because, oh, they couldn't dodge a bus, so they couldn't possibly be in the UFC. Just disgusting behavior. And when those clips from the Theo Von podcast came out, Ian Machado Garys commented on them. And we're going to take a look at his comments because Ian Machado Garys, I know people don't like Ian Machado Garys and they say he's cringe and they talk all this crap about him. He hit the nail on the head. Let's see what he had to say. He said, at Strickland, how the tables have turned. You dish it out in the lowest, most vile manner, but you can't take a pinch. That is 100% accurate by Ian Machado Garys. You attacked my wife incessantly and obsessively, calling her a pedophile. It's clear to see your childhood drama showing. You claim you were, quote, giving me advice before. Well, now it's my turn to return the favor. You should shut your mouth and focus on the mirror because you have enough serious issues you need to solve. I wish you all the best with them. Don't ever project your pain onto me and my family again. Happy New Year. Absolutely destroyed Sean Strickland. Everything he said there was facts, and he actually said it kind of in a classy way. And I know people are going to say, oh, this is coming from Ian Machado Garys who threatened to sue people. Well, the majority of what Strickland and others were saying, I know this almost breaking news to the MMA community. The majority of what people have said regarding Ian Machado Garys and his wife have been lies, flat out lies. Ian Machado Garys has never taken his wife's ex-husband's last name, and he's never lived with them. And there's no evidence to support those claims. I've asked, multiple people have told me, Joey, you're wrong on this. I've asked for any evidence that substantiates those claims. It does not exist. And maybe Ian Machado Garys, maybe it is a little clownish to say, oh, I'm going to sue you. But at the end of the day, when you have someone like Sean Strickland and has his incel fan base following that then uses them to target your wife. And keep in mind, don't take it from me. Take it from Sean Strickland. You should never go after someone's wife. That's off limits. That is off limits. But yet, now Strickland, someone makes fun of him for something that he's talked about in the past, and all of a sudden he's clutching his pearls. This is the worst thing anyone's ever said to me. I can't believe this. This is disgusting. Ian Machado Garys literally buried him in the classiest way possible. I think he could have went harder, honestly. And Ian Machado Garys is smart going after Strickland because guess what? In the future, not right now, obviously, he has to get through Jeff Neal and hopefully at least one more fight and, you know, maybe even more to get the title potentially in the welterweight division. But he could set up a future fight with Sean Strickland, and that would sell a lot. That would sell a lot. Could you imagine the build up to that? And apparently, according to Ian Machado Garys, that's on his hit list, but we're not going to discuss that in this video. He called him out for the hypocrisy. He called him out, and you have so many people, now their heads spinning because they're the people who say, Sean Strickland should be able to say women can't work, shouldn't be able to work or vote. Sean Strickland should be able to make fun of fighters who passed away via an accident. Make fun of them the week they died. Sean Strickland should be able to call people homophobic slurs. That literally gains him fans in the MMA community. But the second somebody says, I'm going to beat you like your daddy did, all of a sudden we got to go on this world tour crying and whining and playing victim. And I just think it's really hurt Sean Strickland's brand. To be honest, he's this guy who goes out of his way to say whatever he thinks. And, you know, it's crazy and it's ludicrous most of the time. But that's what people loved him for. And now he's essentially saying, look, we need a handbook. We need a handbook when it comes to trash talk in the sport because some people are crossing the line and they're saying mean things to me. I'm waiting for him to draw up a lawsuit. And, you know, as much as I sit here and I call Sean Strickland a hypocrite, which he is, I mean, that's clear as day, I do feel bad for him because something a lot of people will not touch, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some medical expert. Sean Strickland definitely is on the spectrum somewhere along the lines. You know, again, I'm not going to sit here and diagnose him, even though technically I kind of am, which is, you know, not necessarily right, but no one else is going to say this, and I'm going to say it right now. There's something wrong with Sean Strickland. I'm not even sure he understands. He has the mental capacity to understand how hypocritical he's being. I genuinely don't think he understands it. He goes out of his way to say all these crazy things and thinks it's perfectly fine. But now that Dricus gives it back to him, literally 10, 15 seconds of trash talk, I could pull up probably 2 hours. We could sit here for 2 hours listening to clips of Sean Strickland trash talking people and taking it too far. But 10 to 15 seconds of trash talk from Dricus Du Plessis has completely mentally broke him. And I don't even think he understands it. And honestly, to be honest, I'm going to be serious. I think he needs to go see a doctor. I think he needs to go see a psychiatrist. I think he needs to kind of work through those issues because I'm just looking at him now and I'm thinking, what happens when he has that Tony Ferguson type slide? What happens when he gets cut from the UFC? Where does he go from there in life? You know, I'm teetering back and forth on the issue because on one hand, I know that Strickland is a massive hypocrite here and he looks incredibly stupid and I think he's embarrassed himself for the last month. But on the other hand, I'm like, you know what? This guy clearly has mental issues. I don't think that's up for debate. The intensity of those mental issues, that's for a medical professional. That's not for me. But that makes me feel bad for him because I don't even know if he's picking up on these social cues. I don't know if he understands what he's saying is completely hypocritical and completely embarrassing for his entire, you know, the entire character that he's built up over the last 5 to 10 years. And I'm glad to see some fans calling him out on it. I'm glad to see Ian Machado Garys calling him out on it. And I know some people are going to be in the comments defending Sean Strickland, but at the end of the day, if what you've seen today, you can't see that he's a massive hypocrite, I don't know what to tell you. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.